loyalty,
duty,
respect,
selfless service, honor,
integrity,
and personal courage.
Hey, what's going on Facebook? This is Staff Sergeant Noto with the United States Army National Guard, down here again for another edition of the Not Your Average Joe's podcast. I'm joined here today by my co-host, Staff Sergeant Greg Johnson, and our guest for today, Command Sergeant Major Martin of the Indiana Army National Guard Recruiting and Retention Battalion. Sergeant Major, thank you so much for coming on today and joining us and giving us some of your many words of wisdom and knowledge of your experience in the Army National Guard.
Hey, no problem, guys. Thanks again for inviting me.
Of course. How long have you been in the National Guard now, Sergeant Major?
All total, I've got about 24 years in the Army or Army National Guard combo.
all the years.
All the years in the Army National Guard. Yeah, we're definitely glad to have you, Sergeant Major. I know we have a ton of questions to get into. Greg, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll start right off. Thanks for coming, Sergeant Major. I'll start with the first question. This is one that I think a lot of us hear regularly. So the question is, does the National Guard always run out of money? I heard that the National Guard runs out of money all the time to pay for college. Is that true?
No, I would say that that's patently false.
Squashed.
Patently false.
So without going too in detail here and boring your listeners, the NDAA that gets signed every year is the congressional apportions that goes to every branch of service. And so the National Guard gets their federal funding through the NDAA. Additionally, we get state funding through the governor's office of each state, and that allows us to have two pools of money in order to be able to meet the expectations, the benefits, and provide additional incentives for our soldiers in the National Guard.
And for everyone listening, the NDAA is the National Defense Authorization Act, correct?
That is correct.
And that's the budget from the president's office that goes to Congress. Congress signs it, and that's how the military DoD gets funded.
So to clarify, the Guard gets both federal and state money. So we can say, I'm going to say patently fake news. So I can use both terms here.
Hashtag fake news.
Hashtag fake news that the Army National Guard doesn't run out of money. I know I've heard that myself. Like, the state runs out of money all the time. Does the federal government run out of money? I guess.
They'll just borrow more.
Yeah. Our next question comes to us from Sergeant First Class Justice. We actually have this pre-filmed.
Hi, this is Sergeant Justice, and I hear that if you join the Guard, you can't change to active duty until after your contract is up.
True or false?
Oh, that's just an egregious falsehood right there. And I'll tell you guys this. So I listened to one of your last podcasts, and one of the young lieutenants mentioned that after coming back from AIT, she was really motivated and wanted to go active duty, but the parents talked to her, and she stayed. Well, much like that, I was a young, motivated soldier who enlisted as a split training option soldier, junior in high school when I joined the Guard. And after AIT, I was also the same way, gung-ho. I was like, man, I love what the Army has to offer. Went and talked to my readiness NCO and did a conditional release and essentially went active Army probably 5-6 months after graduating AIT.
So that should squash that rumor right away, because I always hear you have to finish your contract before you can switch, or there's some kind of arbitrary time that applicants come with. I have to wait 90 days or 6 months or 2 years. Just submit the paperwork.
Well, to your point, there did used to be a 6 month after IADT wait, and that was in the old AR 601-210. However, the new AR 601-210 waives any and all time requirements.
That's awesome. So it's that possible. If I join the National Guard as one MOS, so one military occupational specialty, one job, but I want to change my job, my career later on, is that possible, Sergeant Major?
Oh, absolutely. Changing MOS is essentially one of the best parts about the National Guard. I'll tell you, through the Guard, I was able to obtain 4 different field artillery MOSs.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and because, hey, we have the school available, or because we have this vacancy over here, we want you, young high-speed trooper, to go ahead and get trained up and fill that vacancy. So I would say that, your ability to switch MOSs within your original contract in the Army National Guard far exceeds your ability on active duty, because you're contractually bound on active duty to that MOS until you can reclass at the end of your term.
And really, from my experience, coming from the other side before I was a recruiter, the only thing that's going to hang up soldiers that want to change the MOS is a lot of times themselves. It's going to be PT scores or being in good standing with the unit.
Absolutely.
As long as they're doing the right thing and there's an opportunity within the state, submit the paperwork to get a new job, because you're gonna be enhancing your skills, making yourself more marketable.
And you might enlist as what's your MOS? 88 Mike,
80
right?
Mike, yep.
You might enlist as a truck driver, and 2 years down the road, you're like, man, I want to go try out this new MOS, like 17 Charlie, right? Cyber Operations Specialist. Because, there's no but there's no time requirement, right? You can go as long as you're qualified, and there's certain stipulations, but as long as you're qualified, and that opportunity is available, you can switch, right?
Yep.
That's so amazing. Our next question is actually from Sergeant First Class Watson out of the great state of New York about deployments.
Hey, Sergeant Watson with the New York Army National Guard again. Another one that I hear a lot is National Guard soldiers don't get deployed.
True or false, Sergeant Major?
Again, that's another that's another false one, and I think most of us who've been in the National Guard since post 9/11, since after 2001, we've certainly seen the landscape of the National Guard change considerably. We've had multiple combat deployments from Afghanistan, Iraq. We're doing security force missions in Kuwait. So there's a lot of what we would call a Title 10 deployment or mobilization missions on top of what we do for domestic support operations.
Yep.
Recently, through the protests and things like that, we've, as a National Guard nation, we've stood up and been able to provide domestic and civil support operations internally. But yeah, deployments outside the country all the time.
All the time.
That brings up a really good point, Sergeant Major. You mentioned Title 10. How much of your career has been spent on full-time?
Oh, okay.
Let's say full-time.
So full-time, I'm sitting right on 20 years of active duty right now.
There we go.
20 years of AFS, active federal service.
Yes.
Now, that hasn't all been in the state, because obviously you're not from Indiana, you're from all over, really, because you've been
Yes.
Title 10 for how many years?
So after my initial tour with the Army on active duty, I came back to the Guard because it's a great organization. And then shortly thereafter, I became a recruiter.
Hey!
Yeah, great times, great times. And from there, after a few years in recruiting, I volunteered and went on a couple of deployments, and then went into what we call the Title 10 spectrum of Guard Bureau. And I would say all total, I had right at 12 years in the Title 10 arena.
So I know everyone here in this room knows what Title 10 is, but what would you define, or what is Title 10, Sergeant Major?
So Title 10 is federally active National Guard service member. It allows you to basically be the roles of the Army while in the Army National Guard, and you PCS, which is moving, by the way.
Right.
You PCS just like a traditional active Army soldier. So, throughout that time, I was at Fort Sill, Fort Leonard Wood, Fort Eustis, Virginia, Fort Carson, Colorado, and then eventually NGB.
Those are all active duty posts.
That's correct. Yeah,
So-
that's all.
But you work for the federal government.
Well, I worked for the Army National Guard, and because of the type of orders that I was on, Title 10, it afforded me the opportunity to basically be just like an active duty soldier, PCSing, same entitlements, same everything.
Is there a difference in your pay because you're in the National Guard, Sergeant Major?
No, there was no difference. Same with Title 32 to Title 10. The only difference is essentially where you end up, because that housing allowance is based on your zip code of duty assignment. So your pay does change every time you move.
Every time you move, yeah.
But it's just based on that housing zip code.
Same pension, same health care, same full-time active duty benefits you would get
Absolutely.
as if you were, a regular component Army.
Absolutely.
And you're in the Army National Guard. So that would be a myth.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely a myth.
So I have some friends that have been to cool guy schools. I call them cool guy schools. Airborne, air
schools?
assault. And they're in the National Guard. But something I hear regularly is high school students that have talked to active duty recruiters, and active duty recruiter tells them, well, the Guard can't send you to airborne or air assault or Pathfinder or Ranger School or SF. Is that true? What can the National Guard do?
Well, again, that's an untrue statement. So one of the beautiful things, patently false. So one of the beautiful things about the National Guard is we do have dozens and dozens of opportunities for those schools. We have special forces units within the National Guard. We have obviously a lot of infantry within the National Guard that affords a lot of cool guy schools, right? You want to go Pathfinder, you want to go Ranger, those sort of things. One of the best things that we actually have within the National Guard itself is the Warrior Training Center down at Fort Benning, which is an Army National Guard school, and it allows us to go and train. But better than that, they do MTTs, mobile training teams. Yeah, I mean, they'll come out to multiple states throughout the year, and they're looking for students to fill those slots. Every airborne school is around 205, 210 slots, so it's just a continual rotation of being able to allow National Guard soldiers to go through the schools. I went through an MTT for air assault out at in Virginia. So yeah, it's a great opportunity.
And if I'm not mistaken, in the past, I don't know how recently, but the MTT came to Indiana for air assault in the past, and that was really cool.
Yes, I don't know if it's on their training year 21 calendar to come back to Indiana, but that's where we have a great opportunity to be able to send our soldiers to some of our border states,
Right.
It's very easy.
And I think we had this discussion before Sergeant Major where other components might require you to be in an airborne slot, right? You said no. Anyone like you could send me to airborne school right now, Sergeant Major, right?
Absolutely.
Are you ready to run?
As long as
you're running is on par, yeah.
Are we recording this right now? Perfect. Just making sure. But no, yeah. So you don't have to be in an airborne slot or air assault. I think you did mention the Pathfinder's requirement. That's a school requirement, not a National Guard requirement. That's right there is truly amazing. Sergeant Major, I was told by an active duty recruiter when I was originally enlisting in the military that the National Guard is not part of the actual military. What is that rumor about, Sergeant Major?
Jealousy. No, I'm not sure where that comes from or where that myth got started. But essentially, the National Guard is the oldest, most established branch of the military.
Boom.
We can trace our lineage back to December 13th, 1636, Massachusetts Bay Colony, standing up the Minuteman, as it were, and being able to carry that torch of liberty for the next 300 years.
Facts, right there.
Facts, real news. No, that's probably one of my favorite stories, Sergeant Majors. We were established December 13th, 1636, before the Constitution was even signed. The Army National Guard history is truly incredible for anyone that's ever read about it.
So another common one that we get is, a high school kid will come in and say, an active duty recruiter told me that National Guard doesn't get promoted as fast as active duty. Come active duty and you'll get promoted faster than your friends that are in the National Guard. Is that true?
No, again, patently false.
Ooh.
So
I'm seeing a theme.
This becomes thematic. Well, for what it's worth, when you guys told me we were busting myths, I was ready to come blow some stuff up. I'd watched Mythbusters before.
That is a great show.
Thought that's what we were going to be doing, but I'll answer questions instead.
That's right.
So, the question was essentially on promotion. So, all compos of the Army, the active Army, Army Reserves, and the Army National Guard are all managed for promotion out of AR 600-8-19. To that end, your time in the National Guard starts when you raise your right hand. So your pay entry base date is the determining factor for how many months in service you have. So if you look at E1 to E4, typically E4 requires 24 months time in service for promotion. So if you're in the National Guard, it starts the day you raise your right hand. However, if you're active Army, that timeline doesn't start until you ship to basic training. So if you raise your right hand January 1st, but you don't ship to training until May 1st, your clock for promotion doesn't start until May 1. Whereas if you join the Guard January 1st, your time starts January 1st.
Yep.
Right.
That's amazing because everyone has that 8-year military service obligation. I know not everyone's always upfront about that, but every component of the military, Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Army National Guard, has an 8-year military service obligation, and that MSO does start the day you raise your right hand, right?
Absolutely.
For any component. But your actual contract length, so the amount of time you're on active status. So for us, the 1 week in a month, 2 weeks in the summer, traditionally 39 days a year. For active duty, the full time, that doesn't start for those active components until they go to basic training, right, Sergeant Major?
That's correct.
Which could be months from the day that they swear in.
Correct. I mean, we had Staff Sergeant Zalpugas on the program
Yep.
a little while back, and he mentioned that they talked about almost a year, right?
Yep.
Almost a year in the pulley program.
That didn't count.
That didn't count, so it counted towards his 8 year of military service
MSO,
obligation.
right, correct.
But it didn't. He wasn't getting any benefits, any educational benefits. He wasn't counting down towards his pension. Nothing at all. He was just kind of sitting in limbo, right?
Right. Correct.
So our next question actually is a really common we get. It's from Staff Sergeant Cruz. It's about interstate transfers.
Hello, my name is Staff Sergeant Cruz. I am the Interstate Transfer Coordinator for Indiana. Guard myth. I heard that if you enlist into the National Guard that you have to stay in state.
Boom. We get that one all the time, Sergeant Major. If I enlisted in the Indiana Army National Guard, I was told I had to stay here for 20 years or whatever the arbitrary amount of time is. Is that true or false, Sergeant Major?
Again, that's another falsehood. It's a complete myth. We do interstate transfer regularly. Staff Sergeant Cruz, who asked that question, is our state's interstate transfer coordinator. And of course, as soldiers move into Indiana, he picks up their accession packet and is able to put them in the right space for their MOS, put them in a good unit. Likewise, when we have folks that leave the state of Indiana and they're going elsewhere with their careers or going elsewhere for education purposes, he coordinates with the other states, gaining states, Interstate Transfer Coordinator, and we do the losing packet, and the gaining state does the picking up. I've personally been a member of now 3 states Army National Guards.
That's it.
So yeah,
and I can kind of speak to that as well. In my previous position, a couple of positions before this, actually, I was an admin NCO at my unit, so I did a lot of HR type work, and a lot of that involved IST packets.
Right.
You get college kids that want to go to school. Not in Indiana. They want to go to wherever, anywhere they want to go, where they got accepted. And I did all that paperwork. So over the course of 3 years I was in that position, I did probably 25 IST packets.
Wow.
Only one got disapproved.
I'm sure it was for they were flagged or something like that.
We were going to JRTC that summer, and the person put the packet in about a month before we were supposed to go to JRTC. Battalion commander said, after JRTC, I will approve this packet.
Right. So that makes sense.
So essentially 25 out of 25 approved.
And there's 54 different National Guards, right? 50 states, 4 territories. So if you get tired of Indiana, for example, and you want to go to Guam, U.S. Virgin Islands,
U.S. Virgin Islands,
D.C., Puerto Rico, they all have their own Army National Guard.
Yep.
So you could transfer down there. That's such a phenomenal thing. Now, Sergeant Major, you mentioned you were part of 4 Army National Guard states, right?
No, this is my 3rd state.
3rd state. I'm sorry. Math is hard for me.
That's okay.
Numbers are hard.
We kind of skipped right over your Army National Guard career. You've been in 24 years, Sergeant Major. What have you done during that time frame?
Not a lot. Not a lot. No, I've
got a lot of rockers.
I've done a lot of different things. I've been really, really blessed throughout my military career to be surrounded by great people. And in the Army National Guard, I have found some of my absolute best friends in life. Again, a lot of different opportunities that presented themselves to me, and it's what you want to take advantage of that really helps propel your career. I've done a lot of different things. Started life in the field artillery, became a squad leader when I was deployed. As you guys well know, did some recruiting for a few years.
A little bit, Sergeant Major.
Yeah. I've done TRADOC liaison work, working at the TRADOC installations to try and help our Guard soldiers make it through training, resolving pay issues. I've worked as a reserve component career counselor out at a major military installation. Been out at NGB for just a few minutes, and then, of course, came here to Indiana. So, this is my 3rd Guard state. So I'm glad to be here and really glad to be part of this winning organization.
Can you talk to us what your role is as this Command Sergeant Major of an Indiana National Guard recruiting battalion?
So my role currently is to advise commands on their strength maintenance operations, also to provide additional guidance to our tenant organizations. And by that I mean the recruiters, the section chiefs, and the individual recruiting companies. Being able to provide direction, being able to provide resources, being able to help them fulfill their obligation to meet the end strength of the Indiana National Guard.
So you obviously been in a recruiting command for a little while, Sergeant Major. If there was one piece of advice you can give to someone that's thinking about joining any branch of the military, the National Guard, what would that advice be, Sergeant Major?
I would give anybody the same advice that I gave my son when he was looking to enlist. Do your homework, do your research. And chances are, once you do your research, you're going to find out what best fits your needs, right? And I'll tell you, the National Guard fits all of my needs. It's been a phenomenal organization. It may not be the perfect fit for every single person out there, but I would be willing to bet that it is the better fit for probably 70% of the people who join the military.
I agree with that.
No, I 100% agree, man. Sergeant Johnson, are you prior active duty at all?
I'm not.
So I'm prior active duty. I think you are as well, Sergeant Major.
Roger.
So when I was 18 years old, that was the best opportunity for me as an individual. I wasn't necessarily ready to go to college. I wasn't ready to start a career. I was 18. I was graduating high school. I just wanted to get out of Indiana for a little while and go become more mature. Well, unfortunately, after basic combat training and AIT, advanced individual training, I was more mature and I wanted to go to college. Unfortunately, I was on active duty for the next 4 years. So obviously active duty was phenomenal. I really appreciated my time on there, but I was not able to do full-time college had I been in the Army National Guard. That's just my story. Like, Greg, how old were you when you joined? How old were you?
I was 19. I was a freshman in college.
You at IU?
That's right.
Not IUPY, but IU.
Do not put the PU part in there.
Just Indiana University is studying business.
Yes.
And so that's why you use the Army National Guard to help pay for that education, right? Because you were ready at 19 years old. You, like most of my peers, were ready to go to college. I just had a little bit of growing up to do.
Yeah.
So active duty helped me out with that. Looking back, I wish I had joined the Army National Guard, done an ROTC program, a Reserve Officer Training Corps program. That way I could be, at this point, I've been 11 years being, a captain, maybe looking
senior
at major.
Captain probably,
senior captain, maybe looking at a junior major, and having that life goal set out for me. This is another great question we get a lot. I was told that the National Guard will put me anywhere they want in the state, and I have absolutely zero say in that. Command Sergeant Major, true or false?
Again, false.
Again.
Seems like I've been set up here.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. So essentially, you as the applicant, you as the individual interested in joining the Army National Guard, are going to talk to your recruiter, and that recruiter is going to be able to tell you, here are the jobs that you qualify for, and here's the vacancies that we have. Once you can establish that, that's really where you have to, as the applicant, you have to balance your priorities. Because if Staff Sergeant Noto tells me, hey, I've got this great opportunity for you as an 88 Mike, unfortunately it's up in Michigan City, and I live in Indy, I may want to rethink my opportunities and say, hey, you know what? Being an 88 Mike wasn't the most important thing to me. Getting my education is the most important thing to me, so I'm willing to take a different MOS nearer to home. Yeah. But essentially, it's entirely up to that applicant and the positions that are available at that time.
And that's a big difference from active duty, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of the people that on active duty, or maybe all of them, don't find out where they're going until halfway through AIT. Is that correct?
Oh, that's absolutely correct.
That's
yeah.
So
it was the week before I graduated. They're like, "Hey, you're going to Japan." Well, that's cool, but I get some prep, get some Japanese classes. They did not tell me.
Yeah.
Yep. You know what, Sergeant Major? We spoke about that. You said maybe there's an 88 Mike spot that you really want. It's all the way in Michigan City, Indiana, which is a little far away from Indianapolis, where you might be. But earlier we spoke about changing your jobs. Just because you enlist as a 11 Bravo infantryman here in Indianapolis doesn't mean that 2 years down the road there may not be a vacancy for that job that you really want. So there's always an opportunity for career progression and really changing, your life however you see fit. With the National Guard, Sergeant Major, and you guys can both speak to this, I feel like you have way more control over your career. Would you guys agree with that statement?
Oh, I absolutely agree with that. Yeah. The amount of opportunities that we have within the National Guard really just boils down to how much of an active role are you willing to take in your career, in your Guard career. If you're willing to take an active role and willing to do, the schools that are sent, the opportunities as they present themselves, you'll be very, very successful. If you don't have the time or your priorities aren't aligned with, I really want to, grow and develop in my civilian occupation, okay, then you may not have the time or opportunity to take advantage of the National Guard opportunities. But I would encourage you to try and balance your work, your civil life, and your military life, because once you do, the opportunities are for just abounding.
Endless.
Endless, yeah.
So here's another question for you, Sergeant Major. Active recruiter told me that the active duty will make me more marketable once I get out. But how can I use the skills that I already have as a civilian to be successful in the Indiana National Guard?
Love that question. I really like that question.
I know why.
So I will try and make this a very succinct story. Basically, in the National Guard, one of the hugest benefits we have is individuals being able to apply those civilian learned skills. And I'll give you just a brief example. So when we deployed in 2005 to Iraq, I was with a National Guard infantry unit. We were co-located with an active duty infantry unit. We fell in on a FOB, forward operating base, that had not been fully developed at that point. So we had a lot of folks within our formation. Now remember, this was an infantry battalion. These individuals were carpenters, electricians, etc.
Exactly.
So they were able to come in and basically stand up a really nice tactical operations center without having to wait on the Corps of Engineers or the Seabees or all these other people to come in and build it for them. Again, we have so many unique opportunities. I like to use the UPAR as an example. So maybe you really want to be infantry. You think, man, infantry is going to be cool. But you have a very, very adept knowledge and love for public affairs. You like taking pictures. You like telling stories, graphic design.
Podcasts.
You like doing podcasts, right? So we have the unit public affairs representative, and that's the individual that at each unit level, at a company, at a battalion, at a brigade level, that individual is responsible for the content on social media and whatever other outlets that command's wanting to use. That UPAR, that public affairs specialist, that's what they're doing on drill weekend. So you might be standing behind a cannon one weekend, pull string, go boom, being awesome, and then same weekend you're out there with your camera taking pictures of everybody else doing the same job. So the ability to use the civilian skills and the opportunities to cooperatively apply your military education along with your civilian passion, hands down, this is the best organization in the world for that.
Absolutely.
That's so cool, Sergeant Major. So not only will the skills you learn in the Army National Guard help you in the civilian world, but the skills you learn in the civilian world can help you out in your Army National Guard career.
Absolutely.
That's so amazing. Speaking of civilian careers, I was told that a civilian employer can fire me for going to basic combat training, advanced individual training, any type of training, deployments, and they can fire me. I have to come back here to the great state of Indiana, or wherever I reside at, and reapply for my job. Is that true or false, CSM?
That's, again, false. Man, you guys are just really setting me up on these false questions. The Service Member Civil Relief Act is actually designed to help all service members while they are on orders for active duty. So, for example, if you work for a company, let's say you work for a transportation company down here in Indianapolis, and you join the Indiana Army National Guard to be field artillery. When you leave, your job is protected. Now, we would ask that you notify your employer, hey,
Right,
by the
of
way,
course.
Be respectful.
here's a copy of my orders. I'm being asked to report to Fort Sill to conduct training, so on and so forth. Your job is protected. And then we also have the ESGR, Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve, as a lobbying agency that is a very, very formidable arm of our legislative lobbying group, and they will personally reach out to those employers. And if and when soldiers are wrongfully terminated or wrongfully advised of termination, those ESGR ombudsmen and representatives are there to assist and say, hey, employer, you may have been hasty. This soldier's rights are protected under this prospect.
Yeah.
And then, like, for example, Indiana, Sergeant Major, I know they have their own law on top of those, their own state law that further cements the fact that, we care about our service members here in this great state. And so many states are reciprocity with that, where they have very similar laws. That's so phenomenal, Sergeant Major. And of course, there's other SCRA benefits as well, like the interest rates, stuff along those lines. So there are so many benefits to being a citizen soldier, you know?
So last question, Sergeant Major. I was told that the National Guard doesn't do much on drill weekends besides clean armories and motor pools. What other opportunities outside of my MOS that I pick are there to do?
Well, this kind of ties into a lot of the questions that we've already answered, Sergeant Johnson. So, again, there's all of the detail work. So you might end up cleaning an armory on a drill weekend. That could easily happen. I'm not going to say it won't. But I will also tell you're going to have a lot of fun being able to perform your military function. So outside of your direct military affiliation, again, we've got the unit public affairs representative. We've got unit recruiter assistants. So if you're a unit member and you just like talking to folks, come on over. I'm sure Sergeant Noto would love to have a unit recruiting assistant.
Tell your guard story.
Tell your guard story. Exactly. Tell the story. Tell them why you're here and how the Army National Guard has helped you become successful in both your civilian life and in your military career. So we again, the opportunities are endless, and then the ability to go to the cool guy schools, the ability to take on some of this additional training. And if you've not looked into it, there are a ton of civilian credentialing opportunities that are available to National Guard servicemen and women that allow them to apply both their military skills and their civilian skills to a credentialing service. And that's a completely free credential to those National Guard servicemen and women that they can apply anywhere and hopefully help them out in either finding a new career or in promoting in the career that they're already in.
Yep.
That's so amazing, Sergeant Major. CSM Martin, we really appreciate you coming on and sharing your words of wisdom of your last 24 years you've learned in service to our country community. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Staff Sergeant Noto. I'm joined by Staff Sergeant Greg Johnson, Command Sergeant Major Martin of the Indiana Army National Guard Recruiting and Retention Battalion. Join us next week as we have Indiana's Adjutant General, Brigadier General Lyles, and discuss with him his career spanning many, many years to the Indiana Army National Guard. Thank you as always.